What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Of course, you know it's your boy B Hot Radio Shout In. Stepping in the building, I got the legend, the icon, the bombshell, and the beauty, Leslie Cigar. Big Les, what's good with it, sis?
Hey, happy hi, what's up? Thanks for
Not
having me.
much. Thank you for coming in here. So, coming out of college as a gymnast, though, Les, how were you able to finagle exactly what your career path would be coming out of school, trying to figure out exactly what it was that you wanted to do?
Well, it's not weird, but literally you can only compete 4 years in college in NCAA. And I got into a 5-year master's program where I was going to have a sports medicine master's by the time. And sitting in my dorm room, literally watching like Paula Abdul was out, Jody Watley, Janet Jackson, and I'm watching music videos. And, the thought of me being in school another year and not being able to compete gymnastics, I was like, I got to go. I got to get back to New York. I can do that. Music videos, I'd be sitting in front of my TV glued to like Paula Abdul and all of that. And so and I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I just got to New York, hit the pavement, hung out in Washington Square Park where all the like artists and the dancers and everybody hung out. Discovered that there was this newspaper where there were auditions called, there were two, there was Backstage and Showbiz that had auditions. And so I would start auditioning and everything I literally auditioned for would just show up for, I booked. And it just so happened like one of them happened to be two things. One was a celebrity basketball game for um, oh my gosh, Bow-Legged Lou, Full Force. And they were
Okay.
doing it for a radio station. And so I became a cheerleader for that game, even though I never cheered, but it was really just a dance. And I got to do backflips across the whole gymnasium, like double full, ending with a double full twist or something. And by the time I headed back to my locker, to the dressing room, people were handing me business cards like, I need you in my video. I got an artist I need you to dance for, blah, blah, blah. And then the other was I ended up doing an off-Broadway play called Club 12, which was a remake of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. And it was put on by Big Beat Records, which we didn't know at the time, but myself and Wyclef Jean, who did all the music for that play, and a couple of other people, we were in that production. And the record label needed a dancer for their artist, Jay Williams, who had a big house record called Sweat. And so I ended up dancing for Jay, and that song was like #1 for weeks, and all over the country. And I got to tour with him and dance for him. So that's kind of how that happened. And all the music videos and stuff started to come right after.
Speaking of the music videos, Les, remember the time with Michael Jackson? I mean, you got in there, you stole the show from Michael. What was that like when you hit that set and you knew it was about to go down?
Listen, I don't think anybody can steal the show from Michael. There was like 90% of the dancers that were in that video were from New York, and we all heard about it like on a Thursday. The audition was actually in LA on a Saturday. So I was broke as I don't know what, begging my mother, like, please, I need this plane ticket. I'm telling you, I can win, I can get this audition. And a lot of us were able to make it. Now, John Singleton had been a fan of dance, so he knew who a lot of us were. And it's crazy because it's like you never know who's watching you. So like Prince knew who dancers were, Hammer knew who other dancers were, and you just didn't know that people were watching you like that. And Fatima was choreographing, but obviously couldn't, tell everybody, yeah, you got the job. We still had to go through the process. And so when we auditioned, John was like, I want all of y'all to stay. And they set it up for us to have per diem and places to stay and stuff like that. Like they created some extra in the budget. We had to sign obviously paperwork the size of like the phone book. And we never rehearsed with Michael until the very end. So we were like 2-3 weeks into rehearsal. Michael showed up a couple of days before the actual shoot. And his version of the routine was like hit, pop, snap, crack. We were like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. Okay, let's go back to work and let's get it together. So we had to step our game up.
Shooting that video though, did you know that it was gonna go down as one of those iconic Michael Jackson moments to where, I mean, we gonna play that forever. It's timeless.
Well, you didn't know that, but you just knew it was magic. Like this is I had been to LA before, but this is me actually coming on the lot of Universal Studios, not to take the tour, but like I'm actually getting on a sound stage and nobody's going to kick me off. Mm-hmm. Like I have a dressing room with my name on it and clothes with my name on it. And so it was just magic. And then on the set, Magic Johnson had half the NBA that was there. Iman the model had all the supermodels there. Eddie Murphy had all of the comedians. Like people were coming to visit. John had all his people. So it really was like a big deal, and you can feel the electricity in the room. And that was around the time when MTV, like, you had to run home, set the VCR. MTV was letting you know the premiere is coming Thursday at 7. The premiere is Thursday at 7. So there was a whole bunch of us in the hotel room, and you never know what's going to make the cutting room floor. So the fact that I got like 2 or 3 good close-ups that you could actually, like, my mom could recognize me, it was like, oh, and all of us. So he blessed us all. Like, John Singleton, rest his soul, blessed us all with that.
What was it like being a dancer at that time, trying to figure out how you gonna pay the bills and still pursue your passion?
Oh man, that's the plight of any artist, right? Whether you're a painter, you're a dancer, you're a musician, or whatever. And my mother was definitely not trying to hear any of that without me going to college. And so thank God for the scholarship. But I still was in the gymnastic mode. The dancing thing is, I still had a job by day, and then dancing in the clubs at night. So I had a regular 9 to 5 because I wanted to move out of my mother's house. I had a car note, all that other stuff. But I just didn't have money for like the extras. And you just kind of have to believe in yourself. Like, really, me going into that regular 9 to 5 job, I wanted to slip my wrist. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but just because that's the feeling of like, oh my God, please don't let me have to do this 9 to 5. So dancing and being in the club and everything was like, this is it. And of course, people who are not into the arts don't recognize that. And I tell that to anyone who has kids and you see even a glimmer of something artistic. They could be the next Picasso. They could be the next Quincy Jones. You just don't know. So just nurture whatever it is that you see your child doing, from drawing to dancing to gymnastics to football to producing music. Just nurture it. And thank God my mother finally just caved in and was like, all right. Because everybody would tell her, she's got something. She's still scratching her head like, how the hell? How? You were kicking over furniture. You were just doing cartwheels. How did all this happen?
How did you make the transition from dancing into media though?
It's interesting. For years I've kept a diary since I was like 10, and I always wanted to be a journalist. And then I ended up taking these classes in high school that I loved. And then there was one class that I hated, which changed the trajectory for me completely. And I went into sports medicine. But that gift of what you have in regard to writing and having conversations and communication just doesn't leave you. So I ended up having my heart broken when I did not get chosen to be a fly girl. Right. That was one of the biggest devastations for me. And then, not enough for me to want to quit, but just be like, all right, who am I going on tour with next? And so I got invited to be a guest on Madeline Wood's show, Video LP at the time, as a dancer and a choreographer. They had me perform on the show. We're sitting down and we're talking. And people forget that, I spent months, weeks, days, years on the road with all of these artists. I've seen them without their wigs, without their lashes. I know their family members. Were in rehearsals, hot, sweaty hours of the night. We just all raw. And we just have relationships where we're bonded in stories that people don't know. So when the producers from Rap City heard me talking about moments and experiences with Heavy D or with Bobby Brown and stuff, they were like, oh my gosh, she'd be perfect for Rap City. And Rap City didn't have any female voices representing them. And it came with a struggle. They had to fight for me to, one, be taken seriously as a female with a voice in hip hop, and two, the men at the helm had to be convinced, because I didn't look like what excites them physically. So, my producers, Keith Paschal and Sunita Brooks, fought really hard for me. Like, listen, she has more information than any of us because she's up close and personal with these people. She's the one. So they had to fight for me to get on there. And next thing you know, it was 7 years that I was on there.
What the hell did you mean talking about you didn't look like what excited them physically? Because everybody that saw Big Legs went crazy. So, I need you to do some explaining with that right there. And then also, what was it like for you being a beauty, one of the first beauties in hip hop that everybody knew and recognized and loved, and having that attention and then navigating the industry with that going on?
Oh, bless you, and thank you for saying that. But you'd be surprised. There's men who want something that's eye candy for them, and everybody doesn't like brown skin, big lips, big nose. And that was around the time where, and I don't want to pit us against each other, but the light skinned, long haired girls were obviously, getting more of the work than the rest of us, whether it's in music videos and stuff like that. Colorism is a real thing, especially amongst our people. And it was told to my face that you were not the person that men want to see on a regular basis, or when I
I'm
try
gonna
to
go back in time and kick their ass, but continue.
but it's happened, and I have, there are people in the room who can vouch for it. And that's why for me it's always been, I've had to prove myself talent first, right? The name Big Les came because they're like, who's the big girl doing backflips? I didn't name myself that. As a gymnast, I've been a gymnast since I was 10. I'm 5'6", 100 and whatever pounds. Most gymnasts like Simone Biles are 4'9", 90 pounds. So people look at me like, no, you play basketball or you run track. And then it's like, okay, let me backflip on that ass. And then they're like, oh, she is a gymnast. Oh, I show you videotape of me vaulting or doing the uneven bars. And they're like, oh, I get it. She's a real gymnast for real. And that's kind of what my journey has been, even always having to prove myself, especially as a dancer. When dancing in LA versus New York are completely different. New York was always like knee pads, Doc Martens, gritty, come with the skill in the first 15 seconds. LA was like, stand in the line and let's see how pretty you are. Okay, you stay. You don't even get a chance to dance if you don't have the body type or look the way that they want you to look. And I've been in rooms where I knew I could dance circles around all of these girls here, but never got the chance to dance because I didn't look the part or look whatever they thought was beautiful. So there's a difference. And it's been a struggle.
Pushing through that kind of adversity though, Les, what was that like for you, knowing that you were gonna have to face that every time you went in the room, but you got this goal, you got this dream, and you're trying to persevere throughout it all? How were you able to mentally stay healthy and then also still achieve the major and massive success that you did?
Well, I have to say it's two things. One is I come from a family of predominantly women. So the women in my family are very intelligent, very confident, very supportive, and they build your self-esteem. And I have always been nervous about disappointing my mother and my grandmother. And they are women who teach you to kind of come in the room and have respect when you leave the room. Like, you don't want people to be whispering about you and it's all nasty and bad. So that was always a thing for me, is that I don't ever want to have that kind of reputation or disappoint my family like that. Two, my gymnastic background, I think, really set me up for what was to come in the industry. Because again, I've always had to prove myself. There were barely any Black girls doing gymnastics at that time. Probably I could count on one hand how many I've seen in my 20, 30 years of, doing gymnastics as a child. So it's just now a resurgence because it's an expensive sport and you don't really have access in certain communities to that kind of equipment. So me having to prove myself was nothing new to me. People always like, oh yeah, you don't do gymnastics. And I'm like, okay, until I do a backflip. And then it's like, so it's, me knowing that I had that confidence in my skill because I've won many awards and accolades and stuff like that, then I knew that that's nothing that somebody could take away from me. I think a transition of being a dancer and showing people, yes, I have brains. Yes, I'm smart. Yes, I'm communicative. Yes, I can speak King's English, or this is a whole other thing that you have to prove. And so then you have to try and find journalistic integrity too along the way in regard to when you're doing interviews. I didn't just want to do fluff pieces. I didn't just want to have, be flirtatious and swing my hair and wear all these little, outfits. I really wanted people to respect the fact that I had knowledge about the industry. I had relationships with the artists, that I was there when that album broke or when they premiered this song, or I was part of that video. And I was blessed that I had a whole dance career before I even got into radio and TV that kind of fortified the other. And it made it better for the artists who had seen my journey or who had been there with me before they had their deals, because they trusted me enough to tell their stories.
Being on BET, on Rap City, and that making you a household name, what was that like? And how was that experience for you when you went from, doing your dance to being recognized on the street as Big Les from Rap City?
It was crazy because before Rap City, they'd be like, aren't you the girl who dances? And nobody knew my name. It's the silhouette or the body frame that was the most recognizable, even from behind. And I couldn't understand how that happened. And then it would be like, yo, Les. And that would be great. And then people were calling me the wrong name because Donnie Simpson would call me Big Legs as opposed to Big Les. And so people would call me Big Legs. And I was like, I didn't even care. The fact that you even watched the show and you got cable in the hood, or even Pookie and them hooked you up with the black box, it didn't matter. I just was happy that you guys, recognized me and stuff. But you want to be recognized for doing good work, not just because I don't need how some people need to be like the star of the show. I don't need that. I kind of want to leave a legacy of respectability and historical moments and movements throughout this industry. And so that's kind of been my goal. So to be appreciated or looked at with that is a great thing.
Artists like Tupac and Biggie, being able to interview them early on in their careers, what was that like moving the culture forward at that time and putting them on a platform to where the world could see them? And it's a platform that everybody's tuned into, so you know that this interview is going to mean a lot to these artists' careers.
Oh man, it's nerve-wracking. It's pressure upon pressure upon pressure, because what you don't see is like the other 30 people that are in the room, not just like their crew, but the other producers and stuff like that. And half the time, sometimes there's an IFB in your ear where your producer's talking to you, the cue cards, the teleprompter, this, that, and the other. So you have to pay attention to so many things as well as listen to the artist. And you recognize the streets are bubbling. This is going to be an interview that's going to change your career. So you better come with it. And so, you know, I'm somebody who by nature is really inquisitive and interested in the journeys of other people. So I didn't really need a lot of the times the, you know, cue cards or notes and stuff like that, unless it was something important I really had to say or a specific name. So me asking me these questions were really genuinely because I was interested in what it was that they were bringing and, you know, what this was going to be like. Not to ask the general questions or the generic questions that I've asked 20,000 other people. So, and it was hard back then because a lot of times artists did or didn't have artist development. And so they just be like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? We just keep it real. You know, we just represent the hood. We just keep it real. And it's just like, okay. But thank God Tupac and Biggie were like prolific enough, you know, with their vernacular and their thought process to really share their emotions about what was going on, not just in the studio and on the record, but bringing real life to their lyrics and talking about that journey and what it means for Black people and what it means for hip hop and all that stuff. So,
as a journalist in those spaces, what were the times that you really felt like you was just doing your thing and you knew that that interview was just going down?
Well, two things have happened. And I just told this story in an interview before. I grew up with Kid and Play, DJ Wiz, Herbie Lovebug. We're all from East Elmhurst. So we all went to like junior high school, elementary school together. Our siblings all went to school together and stuff. So I knew them. So I'm interviewing Kid and Play. And the thing you have to do is you're so focused. And this is in the very, very beginning of my career, of the questions that are on the paper that you don't listen. And so I hear them talking. I'm just making sure I get my questions out. But Play had already answered 3 of the questions that are already on here, but I didn't listen to him. So I asked one of the questions. He's like, you didn't hear me? I just answered that. And he really shut me down. Like, and I'm going, dang, I was hurt because I was like, this is my friend. Yeah. But I was like, you know what? He's right. And it will never, ever, ever happen again. Let me step my game up. So that was one thing. And then 2 was just, you know, having to do interviews like Aaliyah and R. Kelly, for instance, where, you know, I'm privy to a lot of the information in the stories because I'm in the mix. I've been on tour with R. Kelly, you know, and there are people I know who knew, who know, who whatever. Then you have those meetings about don't ask, don't say, don't whatever. But then you have this moment where it's like, if it's not me, it's going to be somebody else. And me and Brett Walker had to make a decision. Like, we're going to ask this question. Depends on how you ask it. So I'll ask it a little playfully so that they don't feel offended or like blow up on, you know, camera. And they were already prepared and toyed with us, whatever what the answer was too. But there was a time also, I interviewed Eminem really quick. I was doing something for Source Magazine, Red Carpet Source Awards in LA. And so he came up to do an interview. And he was one of those interviews that was very yes, no, yes, no. And I felt like he just was so overwhelmed with how everybody was fiending after him. And he had been in the trenches for so long. And he's like, now everybody's on my ass. Like, now you all want me. And that he was kind of pissed about that, having to do the interview. Like, it just, or maybe he was having a bad day. Something happened before he got to me. I don't know. But it was cold as ice. And as a journalist, you kind of have to fill in the spaces and the time, or try and make it, you know, give you a non-yes or no question. Yeah, it really was pulling teeth. He just wasn't having it. So it was kind of like we cut it short, and I felt like that was a missed opportunity for me and for him. But, you know, what can you do?
When it came to people like Tupac and Biggie and a lot of the other artists that you interviewed, Who were the artists that surprised you to become icons later on after those interviews that you really didn't see it at that moment? It was just another day you at work, and then you turn around and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't know you were gonna be the greatest of all time.
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Um, it's interesting because let me think. I don't know if I'm super surprised at certain artists because usually you can recognize star power in people. And even if you don't see it like, and I hate to use it with this group because they're my friends, right? Everybody's my friends, but the way that you look at the Fugees, right? And you can see through the screen how Lauren has this essence, and you can see with Wyclef, and everybody sleeps on Praz, even though Praz has it, like, but everybody slept on Praz. So you kind of, there's levels of that shine that people have when they walk in the room that you just kind of know. I think for me, it's the opposite of who I thought was great and they weren't getting their right shine. Was at first was for me was Common. I
Mm.
always thought that Common was the truth, prolific, intelligent, and it took him a minute because he was like an underground artist for a very long time, and he's just now, you know, between all the Oscars and stuff he's won and everything else with the film work, showing you what he's made of. Even though those of us who have been riding with him have seen it, it took a minute for the rest of the world to grab on. And I'm glad that they have because he deserves it more than anybody I know.
When you think about that 90s hip hop era, you know, a lot of folks call it the golden era. What was it like being in the mix with so many talented folks from so many different regions at one time?
It honestly felt like being on a college campus. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like we were all dreamers of the same kind. We were all the cool kids. We all had our different styles and our different stilos. Like the dancers were over there and everybody wanted to hang with the dancers. The freestyle MCs were over there and everybody wanted to be over there with them. All the people who like rock with the magazine, Source, Vibe, Honey Magazine, everybody hung out with, you know what I'm saying? Like the editors, but you all knew that all of us went to school together, or at least it felt like it, right? And that we all, this one became the editors, this one became A&R, the record label, this one became the head choreographer. Like it all felt like we were in camp together, you know, and that's when the 90s, like everybody had a corporate card. So we were all with Mr. Childs, we were here, we were flowing, the parties were hot and sexy. Like you can't imagine, there's nothing like it. And the music was sustainable. Like to me, I don't want to sound like some old cranky stuck in the 90s person. Like I love hip hop all day, every day.
Yeah.
But hip hop then was so infectious and sustainable and memorable and always took you to a place and time in your life. I think it's disposable hip hop now, probably because the singles come out so fast. Half the time you can't really understand the mumble rap, and I feel like I need
A translator.
subtitles or something, you know. And the beats are dope. Some of the artists are really dope, but there's very few and far between that make me feel something the way it did in the 90s, you know. So
When Tupac and Biggie started beefing, and then you look up and then Tupac passes first, what was going through your mind at that time when everybody started to realize that it was getting real in the field?
oh boy. Well, it's always been real in the field. And I guess it's somebody from me who's from New York who went to Latin Quarter and saw all the fights in the Rock scene, Roseland, and all those old school clubs. So it wasn't nothing new. But I think because I was so close to being around gang members, which wasn't a part of like the East Coast way, and being at the Source Awards at that day that Suge got on stage, and all you know, who once you're executive to be on stage, and you could feel the tension in the audience, and that it's like, let me find out where the exit is because I need to, you know, and both of them being my friends or having, and not even friends, but like having a really good relationship with them was heartbreaking because there are sides of them that people don't know or didn't get to see, right? People always say, yeah, Tupac was really smart, but no, he was really brilliant, really, 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 really brilliant and very, very aware. And I just felt like he always felt like he had something to prove, and God forbid that everybody would take his handsome looks or his intelligence for weakness. So he always had to be like on the extra up and up, you know? And then I think with Big, it was like, him trying to leave the streets behind. And now you're here, you're with Puff and you're with Bad Boy, and everybody's trying to claim their territory, as you do in hip hop, because it's a bravado sport. So, but there are also so many other things too that happen behind the scenes, right? That without saying so much, where other women are involved, and men will break out of prison over some snatch and become a whole thing. Empires have tumbled over the kitty, it's just crazy. And it was just heartbreaking because these two guys were really poets and dreamers and trying to change their lives. But the ego is a powerful thing, and nobody wants to back down. And sometimes it's not even the artist, it's the people around the artist, right? You roll up to the club and Tupac could be standing there and the boys behind him be like, yo, don't you know who we are to security? Don't you know who this is? Blah, 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 blah. And the artist is just standing there. And now you got to worry about how to manage your friends and the people around you. And it's like, because they're quick to be like, oh, you changed. And it's not like, I didn't change. They changed. You know what I mean? You're just in the trenches trying to do what you do. So it was just heartbreaking to see it go to that level. I think it forced people to fall back a little bit, like even with like dissing people on records, because now it's like we're taking it to the streets. It's not just even fun banter like back in the day with Kumo D and all of them, going at each other. So it was heartbreaking, but it was a reality check for sure.
For you, Les, being at all of the hottest parties and being in the mix all the time, how did you keep yourself from getting caught up in that industry life and winding up strung out or ruining your career or just going to hell in the middle of it all?
Oh, wow. One, because again, I come from a family of, my mom ruled with an iron hand. Yeah. So again, when you put that kind of self-respect and discipline in your life, and my gymnastic life was completely disciplined. Like I told you, I was a gymnast since I was the age of 10. I had structure for every single place that, every day of my life. And then I think hearing those stories about the casting couch and getting strung out on drugs and all those things put a little bit of fear, but don't get it twisted. Now I had my wild times. I was out drinking every night and, made my way around my little dates and all of that. So, my slate's not super clean, but it's clean to the sense that, I always cared about what somebody said about me when I walk into a room. So my reputation, because that's the only thing you have, really. Mm-hmm. So it's not me sleeping with the artist that I work for. That would never happen. No man that I ever have a relationship will ever have control over my money. And then you got to worry about other dancers, being jealous of people saying, oh, she just got the job because she slept with him. And I'm like, no, I can actually dance and flip. I don't need to do that. And knowing that is the power. I think there are people who so hungry to just be known and popular and famous, as opposed to creating really good work and having that kind of legacy. And that's always been my goal for me, is just leaving a trail of creative and historical work behind, still working on it.
While you working and you seeing friends come and go in the industry, folks that came in with the same dreams that you had, but winded up dying hard trying to pursue those dreams. How did that impact your career and your mind state moving forward and just maintaining in the game?
One thing I think people know about me is that I've always been health conscious. I work out, so the inside to me is just as important as the outside. What's been devastating, and I've had this conversation with another friend of mine about what is happening with our men, not just in hip hop, but all of these from DMX to Biz Markie to Michael K. Williams. Like it's always been Andre Harrell. All of our men are not taking care of ourselves. It's been, thank God, quite a while since a female that we recognize and love has passed, but it's tragic. And right now I've been, part of me working on the dance documentary I'm doing is because one, time is of the essence, and two, I can't talk to Heavy D. I can't talk to Michael Jackson. I can't talk to Andre Harrell. I can't talk to John Singleton. Like there's, a list of people I can't talk to whose stories I share, Whitney, everybody, you know what I mean? So it's like, hopefully people are recognizing, the value in seeing what's happening with DMX and all these people, that you have to either walk away, Chris Lighty included, you know what I'm saying? Like, because it's not just the people in front of the camera, it's the people behind the scenes too, the pressures and the stress. And sometimes you got to walk away from this business. Hopefully people are more comfortable now about dealing with mental health. But I think because of me, I have a family that's always is very affectionate and is very talkative and open. So that was my saving grace. Plus being on a gymnastic team with a coach that was very responsible with our girl team. You know what I mean? So, and I surround myself around positive people. I don't have time to be bothered with people who I got to be looking over my shoulders and ducking bullets. Like that's not my style at all. That's not my style at all.
Whitney Houston, I'm Every Woman, working with her on that. What was that experience like?
Oh, Whitney was another around the way girl. Because you remember I danced for Bobby Brown. So Whitney was always on the road with us. And Whitney loved hanging out with the dancers. And it really, we all just felt like a girl crew, you know. You guys, and when I say you guys, the fans or the public only saw the pristine, whatever Clive Davis had her doing. But Whitney literally was your girl that you went to high school with, that you sit at the lunch table with, popping gum, doing double dutch, talking, playing handball, talking smack, come braid my hair. You know, she was that chick. And so that's the side of Whitney I got to know. And us doing that I'm Every Woman video, one, because the legendary Shaka Khan was in the building. Two, the song was already a classic. Three, the director, I think that was Randy St. Nicholas, used his beautiful sepia tone and stuff. And, you know, having to choreograph and be like, okay, all of us are in this moment with those beautiful little girls. Like, and she was still pregnant. And it was just, she was radiant and it was fun. And it was, yeah, it was a beautiful moment for us.
When does Big Les feel like she's in her element? Is it on the television, interviewing folks? Is it on the radio, or is it dancing, or was it on tour?
Oh, Jesus, all of it, like those are all, everything about who I am are all of those things. If you see me at a club, I'm usually dancing by myself by the speaker for about 5 hours straight. Seriously, especially if the DJ is hot. Very rare that I'm usually dancing with a guy or anything, because, or I'm in a crew of guys battling, like, because that's my comfort zone. Hot, sweaty. I don't care if I got a dress on, like, it doesn't even matter. I'm definitely comfortable in front of the camera, and I love, like, when I walk into a theater space or a studio, like something just kind of comes over me where it just feels like home. And it's hard for me even to like watch a concert. Like I went to see Usher's show in Vegas, and every part of me wants to jump on stage, just get it and dance. Like it's hard to sit in the audience, but those all speak to the essence of my personality. And I just love communicating and performing. Radio is the same way. You know, I'm chatty Cathy because I'm talking your head off. So I like to talk, but I like to talk about meaningful stuff. And I love being around really, really, really smart people. So I love learning and, you know, absorbing knowledge and getting new information and sharing new information and all of that stuff. So I'm a nerd behind closed doors, as much as everybody thinks I'm this cool chick from Queens. Like I appreciate that, but I really am. Like I watch documentaries all the time. I watch foreign films all the time. I read books all the time. So, you know.
Living single, when you had to hit him with that choreography for that, what was that like when you crunked that thing all the way up? And then every time the show came on, it was all about Big Les.
Oh my God. First of all, I got to work with the legendary Otis Salih, directographer. For those who don't know, he has worked with Spike Lee for 1,000 years. So he had done School Days, Good and Black Hair, I Don't Want to Be Alone Tonight. I actually met him. He was doing Malcolm X, and I was on tour while they were having auditions for, if you ever see the Lindy Hop scene, which is like my favorite era of dance. And I was like, oh my God, I'm missing this. And so when I got off tour, one of my friends was in rehearsal with him. I came by the rehearsal to meet him, see if I could slide in, but it was too late. But he actually knew who I was, which was like crazy. And then to get a phone call from him like weeks or months later, you're on the phone like, this is who? And he's like, listen, I have this idea. I don't have the job yet, but this is an idea. I feel like we can do it. There's a new show coming. I think you'd be perfect for my vision, blah, blah, blah. So we go, we're under the Brooklyn Bridge and literally dancing and backflipping for 10 hours on cobblestone all day. And so when I see his final edit, I don't see any, like there's maybe one version that has like a front flip in it, but none of the real gymnastic stuff. And I was kind of devastated. But Otis, being the genius that he is, was like, it doesn't need any of that stuff. He just took really good nuances. And once he presented it to Fox, they were like, we love it, we'll take it. I just didn't, the way you asked me about who I thought would blow up and we'd still see from you, I didn't think that this was something that was going to blow up and still have the lifespan that it's had. It's crazy
Yeah.
to me that this thing has just had a life of its own. And I tried to audition to, get on the show and be a cast member, but they wouldn't see me. So, you know,
My
hopefully if
God.
they do a reboot, I can come in and be the neighbor upstairs or something. But we'll see.
Exactly.
You know.
When you look back over your career though, Les, I mean, too many iconic moments to just put into one box or to count on both hands. What goes through your mind when you go to your memories museum and you think to yourself, yeah, I was over there with Michael Jackson. Yeah, I was over there doing Rap City, breaking every last artist that was part of the golden era. I was dancing on tour with Bobby Brown, Whitney Houston, and I've been all over the place achieving and winning at the highest level that you could possibly do that.
I don't revel so much in the past, and I honestly don't remember a lot of it until I talk to people like you who remind me of all the things I've done. Because what people don't understand is when you're in one job, you're looking 10 steps ahead for the next job, right? Because you're a freelance dancer who's not on contract with a studio, you don't really have an agent or anything. So you're grateful for the job and then you're hustling for the next one. So you almost don't even get to enjoy it until after. And so, but the goal for me is because my bucket list of things to do is so long, I'm trying to check them all off. So I'm not living in the moment. I'm still trying to hustle to get my documentary done, to, still be an action film star while I can still do backflips. So that's kind of where my head is. And I get things now that on social media, I get videos sent to me that I even forgot that I did, or clips. And I was like, where did this, who found this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that. But it does take me to a place in time of just joy and happiness and being one of the luckiest human beings on the planet for all the blessings that I've had. Because again, I'm still shocked that me being a tomboy climbing trees and doing like cartwheels in my house got me to where I am today. Traveling the globe, a full scholarship to college, being able to call certain people my friends. I think what happens though is that people forget that these stars are human beings, right? That the job is one thing, but them being a person is another, right? So sure, it's great that they have a $30 million house and I can go swim in their pool, but there are also some people aren't nice, and some people are. And so those are the people I like to call like my friends or really good associates or whatever.
The fantasy versus the reality of the entertainment industry. What was it like for you when you got into it? Was it everything that you thought it would be? Did it turn out to be a little bit more crazier than you thought?
Again, being a New York City chick who like ran the streets, you're not really shocked by a whole lot, right? The sex antics, the drugs, whatever. Not for me. I think I was probably more shocked by certain people who did certain things. You know what I mean? Like you look at whoever icon that's up here and you see them sniffing coke and you're like, oh snap, that's what? That kind of a thing. But then you kind of, I hate to say that that's the norm. You just kind of get used to being around whatever, being in a room where, again, I toured. So I've seen the groupie thing. I've seen what happens on the tour bus. I've seen chicks get put off at the truck stop in the middle of nowhere. I've seen them waiting backstage in 96 at so-and-so's tour and then see them again in 1998, still backstage. Like I've seen all of it. So I'm not really fazed or shocked. I just want to make sure, and because I'm close to so many guys, that those conversations they have about those women aren't the same conversation they have about me.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Absolutely not.
Big Les versus Leslie. Were they one and the same, or were those two different people?
No, I think Leslie's more of the nerd, like I said, that people don't know that, I'm kind of a book smart, street smart kind of a chick, like that girl. That I listen to all kinds of music. It's funny, I was in a friend, me and my homegirl were going somewhere and we were in an Uber and the guy was playing like pop music from like 80s, pop and rock music from like 70s, 80s. And I knew every song. She's like, how do you know all this music? How do you know all these songs? And I was like, not just because I was the only Black girl in gymnastics and the only Black girl in Girl Scouts and the only Black girl in camp, but that's just kind of what it is. And Big Les, I think what it looks like to other people is, the around the way girl, hip hop, cool chick. And that's part of my New York essence too. So,
Mhm.
you know.
Was there ever any time that you wanted out of the industry where you just kind of got tired of being around these folks and you wanted to have some kind of resemblance of a regular life? Or was this just like, okay, I signed up for it, this is what I love to do, and this is where I'm gonna be at?
Yeah, no, I would never, there was never an out for me. I would never trade anything that I've worked so hard for this long journey. I've loved every minute of it. I think there are jobs that I've had that I was like, oh my God, I wish I didn't have to work with this person or for this station, or because of politics of the business and the people at the helm who were like, shouldn't be in these positions, and that you have to work for. Those are the things that turn you off. um Also the politics of stuff too, like, makes you, there was a point where I remember wanting to not choreograph. I'm like, I just want to dance. One, because I was blessed to be working for like 6 and 7 groups at a time. But you got to remember, they all got 4 and 5 songs a piece. And after a while, it's getting burnt out, right? 6 times 7, 42. That's a lot of music to be choreographing 4-minute songs to. And I was just like, oh my God, I just want to dance to somebody else's choreography. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there are times where I would get to the dance studio, it wasn't paid for by the record label. Come on, now I got to pay for it, then I got to wait for my money to get back so we can have rehearsal. Same thing with, like, working for a network, and my flight wasn't paid for. I get to the airport or my hotel, the room, they didn't put the card down, now I got to wait months to, so those things kind of like piss you off and turn things off. But I'd rather be doing that than shoveling shit, right? So my job's a dream. Yeah, I
Yep.
love it.
When you left Rap City after 7 years, what was that experience like after the last 7 years of dominating hip hop and then saying, okay, it's time for me to walk away from this thing?
Well, I'm glad. Well, it's mixed feelings. I was doing radio in LA. I was doing the morning show with Big Boy at Power 106. And, we were shooting Rap City within doing the show. So it was a win-win for them.
Mhm.
But this was year 6 and a half, almost year 7 for me. And what people don't realize is I was making more money as a dancer. I was making more money as a choreographer. And I was making more money as a radio personality than I was hosting and now segment producing Rap City. And so it came a point where my contract was up for negotiation. They didn't want to give me a raise. And so I had to make a decision for myself to either be like, do I stay in this abusive relationship or do I leave? Because that's really kind of what it is. And so, Stephen Hill had just come over. We had never met, never had a conversation. But I guess they were kind of like, well, she don't want it, then that's what it is. It's like, take it or leave it. And I think at that point, I was just kind of like, yeah, it's time to go. Because at some point you have to stand for yourself. You know what I mean? And Rap City obviously changed completely after that anyway, So, but I ended up still having, thank God, an illustrious radio career, which has been a blessing. So,
Exactly. Leaving television and making that pivot in the radio. How much pressure did you feel when you were up under that contract negotiation and you was thinking, okay, I've been getting it in over here for a good little minute, but I'm about to leave all of this work that I've been putting down behind and go in a whole new direction?
it's a tough, 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 tough decision. And I'm sure, like, somebody, even though mine's pennies compared to Dave Chappelle and him making that decision to walk away, but sometimes you just kind of have to decide how much abuse you're going to take. And I didn't, I've been auditioning for other TV shows, and I know the right one is going to come up again, but it was hard because, one, I wasn't ready to retire from dance when Rap City came on. They were good to me the first 2 years because they allowed me to shoot while I was touring in the cities that we were in.
Mhm.
And then it was like I had to make a decision. And I think for me, my body, after having done gymnastics since the age of 10 and dancing, was just like, okay, we can still choreograph. You just don't have to dance. And that was a hard decision too. So leaving TV just to go to radio was really, really hard. And I guess I didn't think at the time that I wasn't going to have another job right away. But that
Mhm.
was also at the time too, where there weren't all these diversity departments. Like, I was trying to get on E for the longest time. And someone had said to me, so have you interviewed anybody who wasn't necessarily Black or urban? So then I like, even though I had Denzel on my reel, Oprah on my reel, all of the higher echelon, they're just looking at all of my hip hop stuff. So then I had to go out and get like Matt Damon and Alan Alton, all these other people. And then all of a sudden now here comes the diversity departments and stuff. And as great of an asset as that is now to have it, it's unfortunate that we have to have that, right? It's unfortunate that we have to have affirmative action and diversity departments, because you should just have the whoever's best for the damn job. Period,
Yeah.
point blank. Male, female, gay, straight, black, Latino, whatever. And unfortunately, the world doesn't work like that. So it was a cold reality once I left Rap City. Like, damn, I'm not on TV anymore, But radio was still so good to me. I was in a major market and doing big things within the market that, it was good. So
Being able to interview Oprah Winfrey, what was that like being able to talk to her?
well, she interviewed me, so which was because of me dancing on the show,
Okay.
on her show, and you can kind of go to YouTube and see it. So she had me on as a guest. So I actually didn't get to sit down. I was only able to use that piece of our conversation. Do I have a? I'm trying to think. I don't think I have a red carpet moment with her, like a really quick press conference kind of a thing. And that's still kind of mixed feelings too. I try not to. I'm trying to save it for the book and everything about what that was to meet her, because sometimes they say you should not meet your idols, right? Because you either love it or you kind of get disappointed. So I'm gonna just leave that there, and I'm not gonna tell you which one I was.
My God, I done been there and I know exactly what you're talking about right there.
Right.
Okay, now what about Denzel?
Oh my gosh, I think this was for the preacher's wife I interviewed him for. And I was nervous, sweaty, and I don't ever really get shook. Like, it's very rare that I'm a tough chick and I don't ever really get shook. And I think I was like stumbling and stuttering over my words and just not focused and just like, and then he relaxed me and it was just like, okay, let me just shake it off. You know what I mean? One of my most surprising, really good interviews is I got to interview Samuel L. Jackson. And I'm doing all these press junkets for iHeart or something like that. So I'm using Leslie Segar as my name. And so he comes in and I'm sitting in, the room where you usually see the reporters sitting facing each other. And so he's already there and I come in, he's like, Leslie Segar. And he's looking at me and he's like, wait a minute. Aren't you Big Les? You that dancing, you Rap City. What is this? Oh, you working for the white people now. Oh, Leslie Segar, you Big Les. The fact that he even almost cried, like, you don't understand that, because my mother would always say, like, you got to do your best because you never know who's watching, right? So you think he's not watching music videos, he ain't watching Rap City, but he's Sam Jackson, he's human, he loves hip hop, of course,
Exactly.
So
Being in radio, what was that like when you switched over to radio full time and doing your thing over there?
I didn't realize how political radio was, right? Because everybody thinks that because you're the DJ and you're on air, first of all, that you can play what you want, that people hand you CDs, play my music, or that you have some say, and you really, really don't. The pressure with the ratings is a whole thing, whether you're in a morning show or your afternoon drive, like, you have to show and prove. Thank God I'm somebody who's very gregarious and social, so I don't mind the community stuff that we have to do, but you realize you really got to be in the street, in the trenches. I think the hard part for me was having program directors who didn't fit the demographic of the station, right? So if your demographic is 18 to 36 Black women, and you have a Latina or a white program director who, one, does not go out to the club or in the streets or in the trenches of where this music or your demographic lives, and then tries to tell you, because of some test or paperwork that they send for, Arbitron ratings or Nielsen, whatever, in the non-hood of your demographic. And so you're having these arguments. And I remember having discussions about, listen, you're not at the hair salon where our demographic lives. You're not at the gym where my demographic goes. You're not even on the sidelines at the basketball games where the women are on the side and the bleachers talking ish about like, you're not there. You don't even go to the station parties. So how are you telling me what the women want when I am your walking demographic, right? So then if you have those conversations, you're being difficult, but it's like, No, you should listen to me, just like you should listen to the DJ who plays this song in the club that you were not at and tells you, no, everybody got off the dance floor. That song is not hot. Play
Yeah.
this song instead. And then you got to fight, So that kind of political stuff, pull my hair out, like really drove me crazy. You
What
just,
advice do you have for other young ladies and just young people in general coming into the media industry, having to deal with those politics and stuff like that? What is the best way to navigate it?
oh, one is always to stand your ground, pick your battles at the same time, but do it with integrity. Two, you better be the sharpest tool in the shed.
Mhm.
Don't come in there half-assed, not knowing about the game and how it works, right? Come with your stats, come with comparisons, come with examples. Like you got to come with your arsenal ready and be like educated. There's information more accessible to people now with YouTube, social media, and all this other stuff that wasn't around. And I say that even the dancers, even though you're good at hip hop, you better learn jazz, tap, ballet, gymnastics, and everything. Because when they call you for that commercial or that Broadway show, you better be able to show up with everything. So you got to come with your guns loaded for all things. Don't just try and do it for the fame and the notoriety. Really try and come in here and make a mark. Don't cut anybody's throat because there's room for everybody to eat. And that karma is a bitch. It will come back and bite you. Um, Make sure your reputation is pristine. Show up on time. I still don't understand how artists are showing up late because, on some diva like that. Lateness is, if you want to know what my big pet peeve is being late. I
Yeah.
don't show up late and I don't wait for people. I leave. My friends will tell you she will roll out. I roll out. I don't tolerate that. So just be as professional as you can. Don't have any expectations about thinking this person is going to support you or put you on. You got to come in and knock doors down. You got to go through the window. You got to come through the chimney. You got to build a tunnel through the basement to come up. And you got to give them a reason to look at you to bring something different to the table. We already have 10 Mary J. Bliges. We got 5, Drakes. We don't need another one of whatever it is you're trying to do. Just come in and create something different that somebody didn't even think about.
When you look at media and the landscape and how it's changed over the years, you think about BET, Rap City, that was all we had, period, point blank. That's what we was watching. So now with social media, you got everybody with their own channel and it's pretty much all over the place. How do you think that social media has changed the game and made it better or watered it down?
I'm on the fence about it, right? Because now you don't have to pay $2,500 to a publicist a month because you can be your own PR person and
Yeah.
really have your own platform and your own show. But I
Mhm.
think the journalistic integrity, has disappeared because everybody's so busy wanting sensationalism that they don't care about the integrity, right?
Yeah.
I've been in this game 20 years or whatever, but if I go on a reality show and punch a bitch in the face, then I can get like that $2 million check, or you can have me do appearances for 30 grand a pop. I'm not there because I refuse to sell my soul in that way. So I
Mhm.
think the integrity of what people are doing is out the window, that they're just doing it for likes and for, the rumor mill and all of that other
Mhm.
stuff versus real quality stuff. Um, and I think the music too, and like I said, I don't want to be that 90s cranky. Hey, I do. I love some of the new hip hop, a lot of the new hip hop. I do. But I think because it's so disposable and these singles just keep coming out, that I miss all of the artwork from the album covers and, the thank yous and, um, it's disposable music. I can, you can't understand half of them, whatever, but there's no songs that really take you to a place in time in your life that you just want to hold on to,
Mhm.
but then you start playing joints from the 90s or early 2000s and you're like, oh yeah, I remember I was in high school, yo, I remember we was on the corner, like you have those moments. And
Yep.
maybe there are some moments, but not as much. I think it's fleeting. So I just hope that people on social media take more responsibility about what they're doing and what they're saying. Like I'm loving seeing the transformation that Jason from what is his platform? Oh my God, not the Shade Room. Jason does
The boy? No.
no, not Jason LeBoy. Jason oh my gosh. Oh, he's gonna kill me. Um uh, uh He was on Love and Hip Hop, and he has his platform. Oh my God, I can't think. But he started off as more of a scandalicious, dirt, gossip, whatever, whatever. And now he's just kind of evolving and taking responsibility and being more responsible with, the gossip and the stories and what could happen and how it affects people's families and all that other stuff. So, shout out to him.
When it comes to your integrity and your dignity and keeping all of that stuff intact, how many times have you found yourself having to walk away from opportunities because you felt like you might have had to compromise something?
Um, Not really a lot, I have to say. I think people don't approach me with the bullshit just because of how I handle myself. So I really have never, sure, I've gotten propositions or whatever the case is, but it's like, it's more advantageous for you to have me dancing behind you or whatever, for thank God, whatever I've been able to bring to the table. Um, but I've had to walk away from things where people act like they don't have any money to pay you, but you just paid so and so, like they think you don't know how much you paid for X, Y, and Z. And it's like, you got it in the budget. So when you're ready, then call me back. And those are the things that I walk away from. Like, I've been in this long enough and I shouldn't have to be arguing with you about what my rate is. And I'm not doing stuff for free. So it's those things that I walk away from. Like,
When it comes to your documentary right now, what all will you be touching in this thing, Les?
This is really about the female dancers of the 90s, and especially with like the Universal Hip Hop Museum. And I had a talk with Rocky Buchanan, like, yeah, you guys always talk about the Rocksteady crew, maybe Scoop and Scrap or Heavy D and the boys, but you don't talk about the girls. Like, hello, we ruled the whole decade of music videos. And I'm not even talking about the video vixens, me, Josie, Tish, Tina Landon, like all of us killing music videos, dancing and bringing that art form to life. And so that's really kind of what it is, talking about the major players, in the music, the dance world of the golden era.
What other things are you working on right now, Les, utilizing social media and this new media out here?
Well, especially with us being on quarantine and lockdown, we've all been doing some podcasts. So myself and P, we were doing the Spin Room, and now Joe Claire and I have just reunited with the Ruckus. And so me and Joe Claire are doing that, and we're going to reformat it in a way. We're working on trying to get a TV or bigger platform deal. So we're just hitting you with a few little nuggets. And then we're hopefully, once we can get this ink dry, come on back and just do what we do,
I know that's right. Surviving COVID 2020, when all hell was breaking loose in the country, what was Les doing and how did you survive?
Oh my God. I usually love my own company. I was sick of myself. I was like, and I had, I've been in a relationship for a long time, and this was like the first time I'm like by myself. And so, I was dating and loving life and flowing around, and it was like, I was like, hold up, wait a minute. But thank God I live in LA and everybody knows that I work out. So me finally getting on the bike, I was on my bike every day. I was riding to the park, I was taking my bike to the beach and riding around the beach and all that other stuff. And so I was doing that outside. And then when I started discovering like Easy Mo B was DJing a house set for hours and the D9s and everybody, then I start my workouts in the living room while they were playing music. So that's kind of how I entertain myself. And then I started to try and relearn French because I had taken 9 years of French, things like that, more reading, work on other scripts, start my book. So all those things is like, I had to talk to myself every day though, to just be like, okay, let's get up, act like this is a 9 to 5, let's go.
Working on that book, what is that like, revisiting a lot of that stuff? Now, first of all, what is the book about?
It's just going to really just kind of be a journey of my career through dance, through Rhapsody, through radio. And as I'm writing it, there's a lot of things. Thank God I have friends who have better memories than me, because they were at this party, they remember this happened, they remember who said what, they remember when Luke did whatever. And like, so I'm gonna tell those stories. It won't be a total tell-all of scandaliciousness, even though I have that, but I still want to be able to get into these rooms. You know what I'm saying? I want my friends to feel safe around me, that, I'm not on no other, the way other talk show and TV hosts and former radio people are real derogatory with their stuff. I don't want to be that chick, but it'll be good enough and juicy enough. So
what goes through your mind when you start reliving that stuff as you start to put that pen to paper?
Laughter, joy, shock and awe. It's the pictures though that are scary. It's like, what was my hair doing? What the hell was I wearing? Like, what the hell? You know, you
Yeah.
thought you were cute then, and it's like, oh my God. And then the woulda, coulda, shouldas.
Mhm.
Damn, I should have said this. You know, we didn't have the term branding opportunity then, right? And we thought about paying a publicist was pointless because I could get myself into my own parties and
Yeah.
um, being smarter with your money. So all of those things are things that happen. Damn, I made a grip on that. I should have never touched it. Or I had an opportunity. Damn, I met so and so and I should have talked to him about being in his movie. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Those are the things that start to come up with me about the woulda, coulda, shouldas. But you know, I'm here with no regrets.
In all, Les, what was your favorite time in your career where you just felt alive and it what you felt like it couldn't get no better than that?
Oh my God, it's in stages. Literally, my all of it. Anytime I touch a stage, it's just magic to me because as a performer and you know my gymnastic career, every as stressful as competition is, like after you salute the judge and you know, as much as I say I want to be a superhero in an action movie, I realized that I've always been right soaring
Mm,
through the air as a gymnast, doing double twists and triple twists, and now I'm still doing
mm,
trapeze and trampoline. So I'm not gonna say it's not gonna happen for me, but I have been in a sense. You know, my first major arena tour was with Keith Sweat. I remember being at Madison Square Garden and at the Forum and all, but the Garden, that's home, right? And my parents there and everybody and people like it doesn't get any better than that, you know? And then being able to sit on a couch with celebrities and there's a camera like and then to see yourself on TV, like it's all been magical. I would not trade it. I just want more of it. And not just there are things that live inside of us as artists and performers that just have to get out. I
mhm.
had to, you know, show off my cartwheels. I had to show off my dance moves. You know, I have to have these conversations and show that I have intellect. Like those are the things that need to get out. And it's not for any other reason of being popular and, you know, being known across the planet. It's just that shit has to get out of me. It does. It really does.
Lastly, I want to talk about health and fitness. Let's break that down. Where did that passion for health and fitness come in, and how was it trying to help other folks get healthy?
I think me being you know, an athlete speaks to and speaks to my personality and who I am. My father was a boxer. He was a Golden Gloves champ. So athleticism and sports has always been a part of me and me being a Tom girl. Um, you know, it's been, I was telling somebody else in another interview too, that my body has been on display since I was a kid, right? Being judged as a gymnast, I've lived my whole life in a leotard, and I wasn't always comfortable in my body, in my skin. I had really large breasts in third grade, and guys would always pull my bra strap and call me names or try and squeeze my breasts and run. I was very muscular and fit, so that even in high school, I was in better shape than most of the guys because of the gymnastics. And they'd be like, "You look like a linebacker." They call you Hercules. So even at the beach, I would keep my shirt on. And it wasn't until one guy gave me this compliment that and I was so hot, I had to take it off. And now you can't keep clothes on me because I've embraced it. But health has always been something for me on the inside and out. I've also was in a business where my physicality mattered, right? Me being on camera as a dancer mattered. So I had to stay in shape. I had to be ready. And I think it did me a disservice too. And I tell all the women that I especially talk to that you have to carve out time, especially female dancers, because they didn't embrace being pregnant the way they do now with Cardi and whoever, right? And you're going to lose time. You're going to lose almost 2 years of your life having a child, nursing for a child. So you have to feel like, remember what that's going to do for your career. And I think for me, I was so career driven that by the time I looked up and me and my guy were trying, you know, going to start a family, I was like, how old? Oh shit. Like, you know what I mean? Um, and I also, when I've seen people who were known for their beauty throughout the industry and you see them as they get older and they don't take care of themselves, I don't ever want to be that person. For me, I always want to, you know, but I got Peter Pan syndrome too. I still think I'm 25, which is why I'm still flipping all over the place. But I also want to hold on to all of this as much as I can. And, you know, even though I post on Facebook, I don't really look. I'm so sick of people putting themselves up in the hospital bed and all of this. It depresses me. I feel, you know, and then when I go back around my way, I don't recognize even people that I went to high school with because they look worn and unhealthy. So you have to, I just encourage everybody, you have to stop and get rid of all the negative, all the stress, even if it's the person or the job, and you got to take care of you. You got to put your oxygen mask on first. You know, therapy is a good thing. I've done that for myself, and you realize, you know, there are other things you feel free to talk about. You know, you don't always want to be a burden on your friends, even though as friends, they're there for you, but they got their own shit that they're dealing with too. And you don't want to be that Debbie Downer. Oh, here come Les again with bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, let me take that over to therapy and then come to you. We can talk about some things, but I've worked it out already, so it's better. So definitely you got to work from the inside out. And I'm just trying to be in this business as long as I can and represent my best self and where I feel most comfortable at, you know?
Lastly, how can these folks contact you, Les? And is there anything you want to tell your fans out here?
I just want everybody to embrace my journey. I hope that when you speak about other dancers like Debbie Allen and Paula Abdul and, you know, all the greats, the Alvin, that my name is part of this conversation. I hope that you guys recognize and think of me that I'm at that level of all of them. That, you know, I'm somebody that you want to keep hearing from in regard to telling these hip hop stories or news stories or whatever, because I'm really a truth seeker. I say just make sure that you hone your craft, that you bring something special to the table that somebody else doesn't have, and that you do the work and stop looking for a handout. I can be found at I am Leslie Segar, LESLIE SEGAR on all platforms. I have my other page you'll come across, Your Girl Les. That's my ratchet page, you know, curse somebody out, that kind of thing. But or lesliesegar.com, my website's there too. So just, you know, stay tuned. And I'm just trying to get the right contract for me that I have, that my counterparts have, that the Ryan Seacrest and the Carson Dailies have, and the Oprah. I want that deal. I don't want to be just some chick holding the microphone. I want a production deal. I want zeros, commas, move it over. Let's go.
I can definitely dig it. Well, Les, thank you so much for your time today.
Listen, this was a really amazing interview because you've asked me a lot of questions that a lot of people haven't. And I love when my brain has to kind of work. So I know I get long-winded and probably went around it a million times. So thank you though for food for thought. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was definitely awesome. Yours truly, Be Hot Radio shouted, Leslie Segar. Go.